the national rate is getting lower day by day, that there are parts of the country where the case numbers are still quite high.
The roadmap for reopening the country will be published late next week following a special cabinet meeting. It's expected personal services, the remaining construction sector, retail and places of worship will reopen in May. The Taoiseach Leo Varadkar says people should have an idea of the way forward from next week.
Yeah, and we would hope to be able to indicate very clearly, or we'd expect to be able to indicate very clearly what restrictions will be eased in May, and then set out an indicative idea as to what could be eased in June or July, but I don't want to go any further than that.
The body of a woman has been airlifted from the remote gully in the Cummeragh Mountains in Waterford, where she was found dead yesterday. The search for Gillian Ryan was stood down last night when she was found above Loch Cumshagoon. The 37-year-old mother of two from Thurles in County Tipperary failed to return from a hike on Sunday. Gardaí say their investigations are continuing. And a man's been arrested over the attempted murder of a police officer in the north with a car bomb back in the summer of 2015. The 33-year-old was taken into custody earlier this afternoon on foot of a European arrest warrant. He's now been handed over to the PSNI and is due in court in Derry by video link tomorrow. That's it for now. More in an hour.
News Talk Weather.
Drizzle drying out overnight with clear spells developing, misty in places with some fog patches and lows of 3 to 6 degrees. Drier and colder in Ulster and Connacht though, where temperatures may drop as low as freezing. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Jack Byrne is the new Wes. Skillful, picks a pass and doesn't get picked for Ireland. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Now, you're very welcome back. So, the breaking news over the past hour, if you're just tuning in, is fairly dramatic. In short, the Super League is absolutely dead and done and over. Chelsea first reported to have pulled the plug, although Sam Lee from The Athletic says Man City were first to go. Just news of Chelsea drafting their withdrawal leaked first. However, they're both gone. Atletico have followed suit. And then the news in the last 15 minutes or so, 10 minutes or so, less maybe, is that Ed Woodward, the much maligned Ed Woodward, has resigned as chairman of Manchester United. TalkSport broke that news, so I mean that looks like sacrificial lamb on the Glazers' part, I would think. I was saying before the news, I don't think Ed Woodward discovered his moral compass today and felt this Super League business really just couldn't stand over it at all. It would seem like he's going to be portrayed as the architect of it, and Joel will withdraw into the trees. But the big news, Ed Woodward resigned as chairman of Manchester United. I don't think they've withdrawn as such from the Super League yet. The 12 are meeting, presumably. Let's say, as much of an absolute mess as this whole thing has been, presumably they just don't want one club after another withdrawing, so they're going to put out some kind of joint statement, I would think, is what they're doing now. But it's a mess, and isn't it amazing? They didn't even last 72 hours, so the whole thing has gone up in smoke this evening. Chelsea are playing a match as well, by the way, against Brighton. That's just kicked off. Nobody cares about that. We'll take a pause in all this. Obviously, extraordinary stuff. We'll let the next half hour or so play out and settle down and collate what's going on. And then Football Show 9 to 10 will be full of this, and we'll have lots of good guests on and make sense of where we are and where we're going. In the meantime, this is a conversation recorded on Thursday, before any mention of Super League or its demise. So Andy Reid, Irish international, really good player in his day, as you know, is making his way at Nottingham Forest now. He was with the Irish underage setup, but he's gone full-time at Nottingham Forest. So he relinquished his Irish duties in January, and we just got on to him and said, listen, let's have a check-in, because Andy's very serious about his coaching career and seems to be progressing really well. He's head of the under-23s now. He's the main coach of the under-23s at Nottingham Forest. So here is a Super League free for the next half hour, and then we're all over it again. A Super League free chat with Andy Reid. Now, really happy to welcome back to the show Andy Reid from Nottingham Forest. Andy, great to have you with us.
It's great to be back. Great to be back. Hope you're keeping well.
We're all good. We're all good. It's just a check-in as much as anything. How's life? So you're busy there over at the Nottingham Forest under-23s, head coach there now of the 23s. You had to leave the Irish under-18 role. I guess it wasn't doable to work both, was it?
No, it wasn't, to be honest with you. I have to say I loved the Ireland work. I really did, and it was brilliant. But for me, there was a couple of things, and the lure of working every single day and coaching every single day is what really get me buzz off. I love me planning the weeks and getting the sessions in every single day. And the thing about the Ireland stuff is it's obviously on the international breaks, and there was loads of administration work to kind of do in the other periods and scouting work and stuff. But I love being out on the training pitch and listen. I suppose the other big factor to it is just down the road from my house as well. So that always helps. And coming back to a club that. I think it's no secret. It means so much to me. And a little bit similar to when I took the Ireland 18s job. Taking this 23s job, I've travelled the same pathway as these players that I'm working with at the moment, and to be a part of that is absolutely fantastic. But I wasn't able to do both of them. The under 18s needed more time than I was able to give, and I think that role is going to become bigger with the under 18s in the next probably year or so, going competitive. I wasn't able to give it the time that it deserved or the time that I needed.
So I was looking on the Nottingham Forest Facebook, and they were doing a little feature on you on the training ground with the 23s, and you were there in your tracksuit bottoms, the boots were on. I was thinking the left foot's looking good. Is he doing a bit of Glenn Hoddle here? Is he like, here, move out of the way, let me show you how it's done?
Well, I do some demos. Gary Brazil, our academy manager, to say to me, don't be afraid to step in and show them.
Just remind them what you had.
Yes. So just listen. I don't know whether I'm doing that more for me or doing that more for them. To be honest with you, but I do like to step in with a demo every now and again. On the very, very odd occasion, I join in with them, but not too much because I'm sure some of them want to kick me. But so I try and avoid them tackles.
How is that groin of yours holding up if you do have a little kick around?
Well, listen, I can just about get through, but I'll be aching for a few days afterwards. We have a staff game here every now and again. Sometimes we get the academy staff and we play against the first team building just across the road. Stephen Reid has so far declined to play, and he keeps coming up with mysterious injuries. So I'm dubious, to be honest with you, whether they're actually real or not. He's yet to turn up. So, but they definitely need him because we're on top.
Is that right? We had him on just last week, just by pure coincidence, and well, I don't doubt his knee would swell up like nobody's business if he played a game.
No, absolutely. I roomed with him when we played with Ireland together, and
did you?
It was quite funny. They had these machines, I don't even know if they use them now, called Game Ready, and it's like a kind of ice and compress machine, and it makes this kind of humming noise, and you'd be asleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. Next of all, you'd hear this humming noise and the water and the ice going into this machine, and there's really ice in his knee at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I don't doubt that he has had some serious injuries. Yeah, that's for sure. But an absolute great guy,
isn't he? He one of life's gentlemen, Stephen Reid.
Yeah, no, he is, and as I said, I was very fortunate that to room with him. It was really good. We got on really well. So, when I kind of heard the news that he was coming back in to work with us here at Forest, it was great. So, he's a great guy to have around the place. It's always good to bounce things off, and and I've seen firsthand, his coaching on the training ground, and he's a top coach, that's for sure.
So come here to me. We're talking, and it's about 6 o'clock. I would have thought under 23's job, you come in around 10, you have a bit of breakfast, have a coffee, have a chat, bit of training around 11:30, 1:30, see you lads, home for neighbours. What's going on here?
Yeah, okay. Well, you got that a little bit wrong, Joe. I've got to be honest with you. My missus at the moment is massively on my case. She said, I didn't sign up for this. She's used to me when I was a footballer. It's not the same, trust me. I mean, my day starts really early. I cycle into work every morning, and I leave the house at 6:30. I like to get in by 10 to 7. Get me a cup of tea, get everything planned. I like to have a session all set up out on the training pitch and all done before 8 o'clock. Then I could get back in and kind of get my teams together, get me a bit of video analysis stuff together, go through any other kind of odds and ends, and then the players start to come in probably kind of 9:30ish. We get our session done. My sessions, depending on what day it is, they vary. My sports scientist does be on to me thinking that I train them a little bit too hard and that I'm out there a little bit too long. I'm in a bit of disagreement with them on that. I think
old school.
So and also then when they come off that, the gym programs for the boys are very very stringent. It's really really important now, the strength and conditioning side. So they will go through that. We will then probably have a video analysis meeting when they finish the gym. Kind of takes us up to kind of 3:00 ish, and then you're starting to look at planning the next day. You're starting to look at planning what's leading up to the game. You get all your meetings done. We've got a fantastic academy manager here, and we've got a fantastic head of coaching. So there's always plenty to discuss, and we're in the process of putting together. A syllabus has been put together over the last couple of years. Before I came in, it was started, and I've had a hand in helping put together with the head of coaching. So there's always big meetings around that. We've got loads of ideas of where we want to take it, how we can constantly improve. So, generally, I kind of probably get away. I'll probably get away on a normal day at about 7:00.
Right,
I would say. Yeah, and listen, there's other side to this as well. The whole academy is based here. I like to try and do some work at times with some of the younger age groups, and we've got some fantastic younger players, and we've got a really, really good under 12s team, and they're probably one of my favourite of the younger lads. And I go and take some of the sessions with the under 12s, and it gives me a real buzz to kind of work with them. Brilliant. It's also very important that I understand, what's coming through. So, I will stay and watch some of the training sessions of some of the older age groups. So it's really, really full on, but it's fantastic.
And it's funny, 12 sounds like they're young, but I mean, you made your debut at 18, so 5-6 years goes by very quickly. When you think back now to you turning down a Manchester United and turning down an Arsenal and picking Nottingham Forest and making your debut in 2000 at the age of 18, how much more difficult is it now for the 18, 19-year-olds trying to make their way in the game, Andy?
Well, I think there's more players than there was back then. I think, youth teams and under 16 teams are a lot bigger. There's a lot more investment into it, so there's a lot more players coming from the continent, kind of pretty young. And I know that might change now with Brexit, and there'll be different ways of working. But at the moment, there's the squads are fuller. It is more difficult, and I think what you're finding now, the trends that you're finding now, is that players are making the debuts later than what they did. I mean, I made my debut at, I think it was 18. I think it was when I made my debut. Players generally aren't making the debut unless they're really, really special till maybe 20, 21, and I find I'm holding on to, not that I'm holding the players back as such. I'll try and push them on as young as possible, but it seems that managers don't really want the players until they're that little bit older up with the first team, which is where our loan program becomes kind of really, really important. We like to try and get the players out on loan, and we've had some fantastic loans this year that have gone really, really well. So it's more difficult. I do believe that it's more difficult. There's so much more. So much more to life. I want to kind of, when you think about things like social media that players have to deal with. I didn't have to deal with that. I didn't get a mobile phone until I was kind of 19, and because they just weren't really around until kind of that age in volley. So I think the players have a lot more kind of to deal with. I think the young men and women as well, I think are different to how we were when we were younger. They're a lot more sensitive, which you have to take into account as well. And I think you have to think about them as a person, as much as them as a footballer. You really, really do, and you have to understand these players to try and be able to get the best of them. You have to understand where they come from. You have to understand what type of people they are. And I think a lot of the work that I've been doing probably over the last 18 months, working with people outside of football is trying to understand developing them relationships and understanding how people learn, how young players learn. Everybody learns in different ways. Some people are visual learners. Some people, they want you to demonstrate on the training pitch. Some people, you need to show them video analysis. And if you can understand the person a little bit more, then it really helps you to be able to teach them in a better way.
Yeah. So the days of using fear as your main mode, which would have been, I think, very much in vogue even when you were coming through, it was tough love, to say the least. Are those days pretty much gone, or would there be the odd player where actually kick up the ass and a few loud words is just the medicine?
It still comes into play every now and again. Definitely not. I mean, my youth team manager, Paul Hart, at times, you didn't want to step out of line with him.
Sure.
Paul was a very tough guy, but a fantastic coach, and he understood who was able to take it and who wasn't. And he knew that me as a player, when I was younger, I was a stubborn little sod. And if he kind of said to me, he would tell me, you can't do that. And then that would make me want to do it even more. But it showed that he was ahead of the game and understanding what gets the best out of the players. But at times, he could tear a strip off you, that's for sure. And listen, I've got that, and I have got that little bit that if somebody steps out of line, the players know that they can't step out of line. They know the parameters. They know how far they can push things, but they've also need to know that they have to have a lot of respect for the environment. This environment means a lot to all of us coaches and our academy manager, our head of coaching, and we need to impress on the players how much it means to them. It's their environment. It's not ours.
Yeah.
It's theirs, and we're trying to help them kind of nurture that environment, that team. That's twofold. That's the team spirit, that they have to protect our environment, and it's also the physical environment. If there's a piece of paper on the floor, you have to pick it up. You have to keep it tidy. You have to make sure that all the equipment is kept clean, is kept nice, and that the training ground is tidy. It's very, very important to me, all them things. And some people might say, oh, well, what does it matter? And it really matters, because it's that respect that the players have to have for it's not my environment, it's their environment.
Those habits can flow into all aspects of your life, those small things, I think, quite often. It's great to see you so enthusiastic, and God, even just listening to you, you're into this and you're loving it. Because I forget that you're still only 38. I think possibly because you retired that little bit younger, from 30 when the groin kicked off, and then you had 2 years of, I presume, misery, and then had to call it a day, unfortunately. So you're still so young and making your way in the game. I was going to ask you, like, life can come at you in threes, and so I just doing a bit of reading before I chat. I just hadn't fully realised. So at 32, you're shell-shocked into retirement after 2 miserable years in 2016. And then a year later, your mother passes away. And then not long after that, your father passes away. Now, either one of those 3 things on their own could knock anyone for 6, I would think. What the hell was that like? That's a tsunami of stuff coming at you.
Yeah, it was life changing as it would be in so many different aspects, and I found it really tough. And it was around that time that I was thinking to myself, do I even want to be in football anymore? And that wasn't like me. People ask me what I miss about football, and people say, "Oh, do you miss the banter in the changing rooms and all that?" And yeah, that was good, but I miss playing football. I miss the. I miss going out on the training pitch and actually playing football. I miss the games. It was the football that I really, really missed. I've got plenty of mates, and I can go and have a laugh with them anytime. So the banter thing for me wasn't really what I missed. I missed football and playing it and being in. And I think knowing that you can step onto the training pitch and probably maybe do something that nobody else can do, and that might not happen, but there's always that chance that it could happen.
Sorry to interrupt you. You were such a brilliant technical footballer. Do you know what I mean? You could do things with your left foot that a lot of people couldn't do. So I can see how just the touch of a nicely mown grass and the little drizzle of rain, slickness on the surface, I can just give me that football. I'm going to do things.
And that's where I used to get my buzz from. I honestly, so when that was taken away, it was really, really difficult to deal with. And then, on top of that, when I lost my parents, it kind of knocked me again. And then I was kind of questioning, my involvement in the game, and do I want to really do this? And I had my A license already, and I took a little bit of a break from it. And I would say probably lost my way in my thinking and in my focus of, this is where I want to go. And then I took the Ireland job when I was going in to help Jim Crawford and Dennis Hyland with the under-18s, and then being back in it and kind of starting to think about tactics and starting to understand how I might be able to help players. And slowly I started to get it. And probably over the last 3 years, it's kind of gone from like that to me to like into overdrive. I'm in love with the game as much as I've ever been in love with the game. I think about it in a completely different way to what I thought about when I was players. I love taking responsibility to try and help develop players and try and help make them a little bit better from things that maybe I've experienced. And I love coming in every morning. I mean, my missus does say to me sometimes, I think you enjoy spending time more there than you do at home. And I'm like, no, that's not the case at all, But listen, my family mean the world to me, and they helped me so much through that dark time. But football means so much to me, and I do love it, and I love the environment that I'm in. I have to say, I really love this environment that I'm in. Coming in every day and planning out my sessions.
No, it's great.
And trying. It's a real. It's a buzz, and I'm very. I do. I do pinch myself sometimes that I'm still very, very lucky to be able to do it, honestly.
Well, it's great to see you buzzed up like that. I'm sure lots of people can retire and just don't want to be near the smell of it, the sound of it. They'd be sitting there just jealous of the younger players that they could still do it, But geez, that's a lot to go through that young, because those three things, your career ending and losing your parents, that's more something the rest of us, or in an ideal world, you'd have to deal with in your 50s or something, that kind of a way. Like, you must have thought, I'm too young to be going through all this.
Yeah, well, listen, so football was all I knew. I mean, I moved out to England when I was 14 and I played football, for, what was it, 18, 19 years or whatever. Like, it was literally all I knew. I'd done a little bit of radio work. I'd done a bit of work with you guys commentating on games and stuff, but all I knew was playing football, and then I'm kind of thinking, oh, well, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Is this the right thing? And I think that's when it all kind of, it all hit. And you go through some dark times. I went through some really, really tough times, and my family were unbelievable. So helpful, and even and I have to say, my Mrs. Candy, she was brilliant, because she had the balance between kind of saying, give me a hug when I needed a hug, which we all need, and also giving me a kick up the backside and saying, listen, you need to get yourself a gear here, get out, and so she was brilliant at that, and I'm kind of very, very fortunate that I've got a lot of strong people around me.
What advice would you give to yourself or to anybody who's going through, I suppose, grief in a way, which is what you were going through during those years when it's so raw and you can't get your head around it? What's the best advice, or is there any advice that can help?
Well, it does get easier. You think so. I'm grieving for my football career, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? But it does get easier, because your new life becomes normal, but you have to make that happen. It doesn't, nobody came to me and said, oh, listen, Andy, by the way, I'm going to give you this job, there you go. I mean, I had to get in touch with Ruth Doctor at the FEI and say, come on, Ruth, I had to go and work for free at the start, you know what I mean? Right. I had to say, well, I'm prepared to do this, give me an opportunity. Nobody rings you up. Sometimes they do, but not very often. People don't ring you up and say, there you go.
Yeah.
So, and then, and I suppose the same with my parents, massive hole in my life, but it does get easier, and, you miss them every single day, but, you're able to deal with the grief, and it does get easier over a period of time. And there's so many people going through this, and it's probably no more apt than at the moment, where with everything that's going on in the world, lots of people have lost so many people, and, and they miss them. But, I also think, after that, after my rough period, I think back to what my ma and dad would have been saying to me. And, my ma'd probably give me a clip around the back of the ear and say, get yourself out. Like what she did when we were younger in the summer holidays, she give me a clip around the back of the ear and say, get yourself out, and I don't want to see you to dinner, and take your ball with you, you know. And that's what she would have done, and I know she would have done. And them things, help as well. And they still help to this day.
Do you have ambitions to be first team manager, senior football, Premier League, Championship, high level of football, or how do you see the next, easy question, how do you see the next 30 years of your life unfolding?
Yeah, well, listen, that is the overall goal. I think you have to have them big dreams and them big goals, and that's what I'm going to work towards. I'm in a real kind of vein of learning at the minute. I'm like a sponge. I'm trying to learn from everybody and everything, and I'm not afraid to say to somebody, I don't know that, can you help me with this? Because we all need help, so I just want to take on as much information as I can at the moment. I believe that where I'm at now is perfect for me. I'm learning and I'm loving it, and it's great, and I'm making mistakes, which is really, really important.
Interesting.
And hopefully, I learn from their mistakes and I don't keep making them. And maybe now at the under-23s is the time to make them mistakes.
Yeah. And like, for instance, tactical side of the game, just one part, but it's something the media will focus on a lot. Manager gets the tactics wrong. When you leave the game, do you pretty much know all you need to know about tactics, or are you learning stuff all the time, watching games all the time? What's Pep doing? What are the trends in the game? Because people can overestimate how much tactics change, but then I guess maybe they do.
Listen, I think if you have really, really good players, then it becomes a lot easier.
Sure. They can do anything you want.
They can do it, and you can almost put them anywhere on the pitch they want, and somebody will do something. But it's very, very important because managers are very, very tactically astute, and I'm testing myself at the moment. So I'm looking at opposition that we might be playing against, and I'm really studying how they play, and then I'm trying to come up with a formula. How can we hurt them? And like, say for instance, we played Bristol City the other day, and they played a 4-3-3, and I'm thinking to myself, right, how can our 4-2-3-1 hurt them? And I'm thinking, I don't really see it. So I looked to play a variation of 4-4-2. Now, what I did is I brought the wingers and played them in narrow. So it almost became a 4-2-2-2 because I wanted them wide players to really expose them little pockets, Now, for me to do that, I've got to get my fullbacks to play high because the fullbacks have got to occupy the opposition fullbacks. And if they do that, then they'll be able to come into them little pockets. So it's little things like that yes. I'm kind of playing around with and trying to learn. And I've put together, along with the help of some of the other people here, put together these sheets where I've gone through so many different formations and then I've pitted them against other different formations. So, does this formation work against this formation? Does a 3-5-2 work against a 4-2-3-1? Where can you get the joy? What's the strengths? What's the weaknesses? Where's the risk and where's the reward from it? So I'm putting together a portfolio of things like that when I come up against somebody who plays a 4-3-3, I can kind of dip into my little thing and say, okay, and it's just a little refresher and say, well, this works against this and this works, and I might be able to do this, but I might be weaker here.
I had wondered that. Was there like if they do this, then I know that the two best options are this formation or that formation, and they tend to work best against what they're going to pose. And then it would strike me as well, as you move through your career, the other real challenge is when the really good managers start throwing you curveballs mid-game and you have to think on your feet. They've changed formation. What do I do in response? That's where, it starts getting really high level, I'd presume.
Yeah, listen, absolutely. And so the first thing that you need to do is you need to spot it.
Yeah. I'm sure 10 minutes could go by sometimes and you're like, shit, they've gone 3 at the back.
Well, listen, I'll give you a perfect example of that, and a perfect example of why, this was last year. We played against Bournemouth. And we had worked all week on them playing 4-3-3, the way they'd done in every single game that we played. We played against them. They played the 3-5-2. We were 2-0 down after 12 minutes, and I hadn't even spotted that they were playing 3 at the back. I was so focused on what we were doing. I was just like, come on, this is what we're doing. I hadn't even thought that they might be doing something different, so I'm like, oh. So what do I do? How do I make sure that doesn't happen again? So What I do is, whether it's an assistant or whether it's my analyst, they do a little check for me after 2 minutes of the game. Are they playing how we were supposed to play? Need to let me know, because I'm focusing on what we're doing, and then we make the plan accordingly. Yeah, they're doing what we thought. No, they've changed. Okay, well, we know what they're doing then. Just little reminders, just little things, because I have to learn. I have to learn as well. I don't know everything.
No.
But I want to know, and I'm prepared to learn, and I'm prepared to make the mistakes, but I will make them in an honest way. And I think my players know that. And I say to them all the time, listen, if I got it wrong and I get the tactics wrong, I say to them, I'm sorry, apologise, I got it wrong, I made a mistake, but I'll try and make sure that next time I make sure I get it right.
Yeah, geez, that's really interesting. Yeah, because you can wonder what managers are thinking about first 5 minutes of the game. They're eyes darting around. There's an awful lot of information to take in, and that's one of the skills of the game. You've got to develop how you prep all week, but then you've got to be a good manager in those 90 minutes as well. Are you vocal then? Like, are you kind of silently studying formations and thinking tactically versus, sometimes encouragement goes a long way and keeping lads tuned in vocally because they can hear you at 23's level. It's not like there's 80,000 there.
Yeah, I do find with some of the younger players that we have to drive them. it's difficult. I would like to be able to stand on the touchline and not say very much and them do it, but I do find with some of the younger players that they're prepared to do it, they're prepared to work, but sometimes you just need to give them a little bit of little bit of encouragement. Come on. So at the moment, I'm quite vocal. I'm working on that, and I want to develop them in a way on the training pitch that I can get to a stage where I can step back and put them onto the pitch and they kind of go and do it. But at the moment, with the team that I've got at the moment, and they know this because I've spoken to them, I kind of need to drive them a little bit. Probably, especially one of the reasons, and it maybe come as a little bit of a surprise because of the fact that I was such a technical player. The out of possession stuff is really, really important to me, and it's really, really important to us here at the academy. We like to press teams really, really high up the pitch. And we like to go after the ball, really high intensity, really high press, and we work a lot on the out of possession stuff. And and I think it's really, really important in the modern game, and it's not going to get any less. It's only going to get more. So I'm not trying to prepare players to be a player that I was. I'm trying to prepare them to be successful in the game now.
I was just laughing there because I was thinking, what would Andy Reid, the player, make of that? Pressing? No. But I guess with fitness levels only going one way, it's impossible that pressing is not going to be around and even more dominant over the next 10, 20, 30 years. Because players now will be fit enough to press for 90 minutes, no problem.
Absolutely. And we have to prepare. We have to prepare the players, not for what football is like now, not for what first team football is like, for what's going to be like in 2 years and 3 years and 4 years. That's what we have to prepare them for. So we've got to know what the trends are. We've got to know what is really, really effective at the moment, and try and work on that and try and help them be that type of player in 4 or maybe 5 years.
Yeah, that's a great point. And aside from pressing, which I'd say is a big one, are there any other trends that you kind of think increasingly we're going to see? I mean, well, look, centre halves have to be Beckenbauer, obviously.
Well, listen, they do. They have to play. The fullbacks are becoming more and more important in the game. You look at the type of fullback that a player, that a manager's looking for. He's athletic, he's strong, he gets forward, he's got good quality on his delivery. Yeah. And sometimes, even that to the detriment, not to the detriment, but even that, they would take that over and being a particularly good defender.
Well, I guess the Trent Alexander-Arnold discussion.
Well, yeah, it is. It is, and a manager will weigh that up, and I've talked about kind of risk and reward. The manager will say, well, listen, if Trent Alexander-Arnold is making me 12 to 14 goals in a season, I'll give him kind of costing us 2 goals because that stacks up for me.
Yeah.
So certain managers might kind of look at it like that. So, the fullbacks are massively important in the modern game.
Yeah. One last one then. God, we must talk about this another time. Like, when I vividly remember watching football when you're coming through, like take that United team in '99, Beckham was there and Giggs was there and Keane and Scholes were there, and Scholes would get in the box and Keane would largely hold, but they were both kind of box to box, and it all just made sense, and you could kind of almost know by looking at them where they were going to play. Whereas now the game is full of like these Mason Mount, Pulisic, I don't know why I'm blaming Chelsea players, but these lads popping up in these like inside channels, and they're all kind of not quite 6 foot, and they're skinny, and they're not crazy fast, but they're quite fast, very technical. The game seems full of those types right now.
But one thing that's the common denominator, they can all run all day.
Okay.
And it's very, very important.
Right.
But to go back to your point about Man United, Man United was very, very simplistic in what they'd done. Really, really good at what they'd done, but there was no rocket science in it. No. It was pretty 4-4-2. They would get the ball wide, they would get balls into the box. There would be good movement. You would have the 2 strikers getting in. You would have the opposite winger getting in at the back, and you'd have one of the midfielders getting in.
Yeah.
So if Beckham got on the ball, Gary Neville would overlap. If the fullback came to Beckham, he would slip Gary Neville in. If he didn't, then Beckham would put the ball in.
Yeah.
Whoever was playing behind Giggs generally let Giggs get on with it, and he dribbled past him. So there was a little bit of variation in it. But I mean, it was very, very simple, but very, very effective because you really, really top players doing it.
And would that be outsmarted now?
I think it'd be more
with respect to those players, obviously, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but what you would find is that them players were that good that if you put them in modern football and play now, that they would find a way to be effective, and they would do the things that needed doing here and now. It was because they done what needed to be done because that was effective at the time. I think there are more people look into it. I think probably people overcomplicate it sometimes. I have to agree with that. So for me, it probably lands somewhere in the middle. Sometimes I like going back to, get the ball wide and get a ball into the box. And I work with my strikers getting across the front post where Ruud van Nistelrooy got loads of goals because there's goals to be had from that. So I would land in the middle, I would say, where I like people to come into pockets. It's very, very important. And I like to have kind of underlapping runs, and I like to have clever little bits of movement. But also, there's a bit of, there's sometimes to stretch the play, you've got to get your striker to run the channel, and you've got to get your fullback to play in there. Because if the back four then drop off, then you're creating a little bit of a pocket for somebody maybe next time to come in. If they think, well, he's going to play that ball in again, they drop off kind of 10 or 15 yards, and somebody can come into that pocket and be really effective. But if they know that you're never going to stretch them in behind, they can squeeze up the pitch and there's no space.
Yes.
So a little bit of cat and mouse in it as well.
Yeah. Put manners on them. Old school.
Well, you have to keep them honest.
Yeah. Listen, brilliant to chat football about you. God, you're going to go a long way in the game, I'm sure. So great to hear things are going so well over there. It's great to see you enjoying your work, which is obviously important in life. Andy Reid, pleasure. Take care.
Thanks, Joe. Great chatting to you. Take care.
There you are. That is Andy Reid, and we were speaking on Thursday before everything kicked off with the European Super League. We wish Andy well. It was great to catch up with him. We'll do it again in 6 months' time or something. But after the break, we're starting the football show early. We have Gab Marcotti coming your way. We'll get the latest on what's going on with Agnelli over in Italy at Juventus. We have Philippe Auclair, who did tell us on Monday this thing was never going to get off the ground. Do not be worried, this is a joke. And so it has proved. Andy Mitten with us. If you've missed the news by now, Ed Woodward has resigned as chairman at Manchester United. Dominic Fifield as well covers all the London clubs. Chelsea got the ball rolling this evening by withdrawing. Football show starts next. Don't go anywhere.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Everything would be better if Wes was back in the team. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Support Irish retail by shopping with Ireland's #1 online store, mixgarage.com. With guaranteed next day delivery across a massive range of items, you'll find everything you need for your car, home, garden, staycation and so much more. Sign up